Seventh heaven for Houston. The Cougars advance to their seventh Final Four and hoping this trip brings them their first title.
I need more enthusiasm on that call. Generic CBS broadcaster whose name I refuse to acknowledge. I'm feeling something. Something's coming on me right now. Da-da, 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 ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, da-da, 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 da-da. C-O-U-G-A-R-S. Who are they talking about? They're talking about the Cougars. C-O-U-G-A-R-S. It's the mother-loving Cougars, because they're on to the Final Four for the seventh time in program history after shoving their arm all the way through Tennessee with a 69-50 win at the hellhole known as Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis, Indiana yesterday. How sweet it is. Had a very good time watching the game yesterday. Watched the first half at McIntyre's in the Heights. Shout out to listener Dakota, who I saw on the way in. Always makes my day when I meet somebody who listens to the show. We did a high five, met his lovely wife. Then after that, after hanging out with some folks at Max, I went to Bobcat Teddy's and really got my ratchet on. I was watching this game next to a Kentucky fan who wanted Tennessee to lose as much as I wanted Tennessee to lose, because we both hate that program and that damn state of squirrel eaters. And we saw the Cougars completely smother Tennessee in a game where it was never in doubt. This thing was over 5 minutes in. I mean, there was a moment where I think some Cougars fans, because the Cougars have had some difficulties closing out games in this NCAA tournament, I think there are a couple of moments where people with a 10-point lead were like, oh, it's getting a little dicey. But this one, truly, never in doubt. Tennessee couldn't hit a shot to save their life. 5 of 29 from outside. And I'm trying to think about what the final score of this game would have been if Tennessee hadn't gone to the line 20 times. Take a look at the foul discrepancy. I mean, the Cougars were fouling the bejesus out of Tennessee. And still, not even remotely close. So they're on to the Final Four. They play Duke Saturday in San Antonio. I'm debating figuring out a way to get to that game. We shall see. I'm not the biggest fan of San Antonio, but sometimes you got to be there for important things in Houston sports history. So should I go? 713-780-3776 to call into text in. Can I get the higher-ups, upper management Joe and some other folks? Can I get the higher-ups to fund the greatest Cougars fan in all the land, Paul Gallant, who jumped on the bandwagon proudly? He isn't paid to root for the Cougars like Jeremy Branham. Should I go to San Antonio for the Final Four this coming weekend? We shall discuss. You want to jump in on the most interactive sports talk show in Houston, 713-780-3776. It's how you call. It's how you text. You can join on YouTube at ESPN Houston. Lance Elsner on YouTube says, our beloved Cougs, roar, roar, roar. Well, actually, it's that, rah, 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 because that's what a Cougar sounds like. On the Twitch also at ESPN 975. 69 points. Yes. Very nice. Some would say perfect. King of Twitch says that Tennessee looked like a 97-5 pickup team. Well, don't be that disrespectful to Tennessee, right? I mean, outside of Sean Mapes and I, who are at the gym on Saturday, shout out to us, just working on the bod. I don't know that the rest of the station is going to look quite like college basketball players, but Sean Mapes and I were on our way.
We are on our way. Cam Smith also there. He's our point guard.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, maybe we also only make 6 shots in the first half. 8 if you count going 2 for 4 from the free throw line. Only 8. They only put the basketball in the hoop 8 times in 20 minutes.
There was a moment, Sean, where I think that the Cougars had, more made field goals than Tennessee had points.
At a certain point, the Cougars on defense had 3 blocks.
Yes.
Tennessee had made 3 shots.
And those blocks were mean.
Yeah.
They were the meanest blocks I've ever seen.
The Juwan Roberts one I don't ever remember hearing a block the way I heard that. Like I heard it slap the floor. Like
the TVs were not on very high volume at the venues I was watching the game, both at McIntyre's and Bobcat Teddy's. And still, I heard the thwack.
yeah, it's crazy.
It was borderline abuse.
Yeah, no, but you say what you want about the 97.5 pickup team. We wouldn't have laid down like the
No.
There would have been a couple flagrant twos if we were down.
We would have gotten ejected.
If we were down 18-4
yeah.
at 10 minutes into the game.
We would have been ejected. We wouldn't have absolutely quit like Tennessee did. So the Cougs are on to the Final Four. We didn't even touch on what happened on Friday. Friday, a classic game between the Cougs and Purdue in classic Cougs fashion. They couldn't quite close it out. But Purdue gets back into this thing. It's tied at the very end. The Cougars have the ball under the Purdue basket with 2 seconds left after a Purdue player had the ball bounce off of his hands. Cougs had a really ugly last possession where it was a little too hero ball-esque for my liking, but they get the ball underneath the hoop. And Kelvin Sampson calls one of the greatest plays in the history of this city when it comes to basketball.
In the Elite Eight. Uzan gets it in, gets it back, and he puts it in! What a play! And now the officials will stop the clock.
God, that guy who was on the call, and I refuse to acknowledge his name, he ruined the vibes for that call and for the end of the Cougs win over Tennessee.
I believe, and I could be wrong.
Andrew Catalan, I think.
I was going to say it's the man who's called 75 Houston Texans games the last 3 years.
Yes, a man who, despite calling all of those Texans games, would regularly confuse all of our insert second syllable of name, whether it was Deshaun Watson or DeAndre Hopkins or Deontay Foreman. Somehow we'd always confuse all three of those names and blend them together. Lackluster call, but brilliant play call by Kelvin Sampson. And if you're looking at the Cougs going into this Final Four against 3 other 1 seeds, Duke, who has Cooper Flagg, Florida, who might have the scariest player in the tournament with Walter Clayton Jr. My God, that shot that he had the ice tech to take the 1-point lead. If he's right underneath the hoop and he dribbles all the way outside the 3-point line and shoots it. What is this, NBA My Player?
I was going to say, that was a Steph Curry shot.
That was insane.
Like, I'm not calling him Steph Curry, but in the last 3 minutes of the Texas Tech game, that was Steph Curry. He was doing Steph Curry stuff.
And then you got Auburn. I mean, there's a case to be made that the Cougs are the underdogs heading into this thing. But there is one edge that they have. It is Kelvin Sampson. They don't have 30-year-old coaches like Duke and Florida do. And Bruce Pearl, he's so sweaty. He's going to be sweaty by the end of the tournament. But the Cougs have Kelvin Sampson, who Emmanuel Sharp called this after the game.
That, it feels great to get him back here because we know he deserves it. He's the best coach ever. He comes in every day with the same energy, the same intensity, and, that's what makes him great. So him, along with all my teammates, we love him. And, it's just a great feeling.
Best coach ever. Loved hearing that. What he has done with the Cougs has been unbelievable. Really has been. And to keep it going into the Big 12, which until the Cougs went into it, was considered to be the best basketball conference in college basketball. Is it the reason? Are the Cougs the reason that it's no longer the best conference in college basketball? I don't know. The SEC, obviously, they have 2 representatives in the Final Four. So looking very good. But what the Cougs have done with Kelvin Sampson running things has really been incredible. And that play to ice Friday's win over Purdue really cements that, really makes it hit home. Saturday's going to be really tough. Duke is a damn good team. They always are. And maybe you feel a little more angsty going up against Coach K as opposed to John Shire on the whiteboard for the Blue Devils. But this is going to be difficult. If you listened to me on Friday, I was telling you, hammer the under because this game was being played in a football stadium. You should have hammered the under for both games, even though it's not fun, I know. Because it's just a lot more difficult to shoot 3-point shots and any shot whatsoever when the spacing that's behind the backboard is a little bit different. That's how the football stadiums work. It was weird because there weren't that many people at Lucas Oil Stadium either. There were like 20,000 people or so.
Yeah, because they split it halfway. They didn't play it like how they played it in RG for the Final Four.
Right.
They played it basically not actually in the end zone, but they played it like vertically.
That's how the Carrier Dome operates with their
Yes,
basketball
yes.
games. So yeah, so
And
it was
there's
a little
curtain up.
tighter,
Yeah.
but it's still a very weird setup
Yes.
the entire time. And I do think that it affected everybody shooting in that series. You're going up in those two games. You're going up against a Duke team that's averaging 92 points a game, 92 and a half to be specific. Okay. You have been holding teams to, I think the number is 56 and a half points per game in the tournament. You've been scoring 72, which is neato. You're going to have to play the best game you possibly can against Duke. You can't have mediocre LJ Cryer performances, which we got one on Friday. In fact, it was bad. You can't have Juwan Roberts in foul trouble like you saw in both of these games. It's great to see all these other guys on the Cougars stepping up. Emmanuel Sharp or Milos Uzan, or off the bench, Francis and Arsenault, who had their moments yesterday. Like, it's great that you're getting the team performances, but this is the big one. This might be even the de facto national title. You cannot have anyone playing below the level they're capable of. It's great that they advanced in a couple of games where their two best players, LJ Cryer and Juwan Roberts, didn't do all that much. That's not going to happen against Duke. That's not going to happen against Florida or Auburn. They're going to have to get those guys playing at their best possible level. But having Kelvin Sampson, that is the card the Cougs have in their back pocket. They have the best coach left. Is that going to finally give Kelvin Sampson his first title? Is that going to give the Cougs their first title? We shall see, but we should all be very happy. Even if you're not a Cougs fan, get on the bandwagon with me. Just admit it. Just admit you're on the bandwagon and enjoy this bad boy, because it's been a hell of a run, and it's about time that we put the cherry on top of the national title for our beloved Cougs. Rah, rah, rah!